Join me in welcoming Treon Mueller. Hi, Treon. How you doing today?
Steve, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing really good. We're talking today about your book, The Rise of the Mutant Learner: How to Learn, Lead Effectively in the Digital Age. So, before we jump into the book, though, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Thanks, Steve. Well, I'm a South African American with a made up French name who once managed an Italian restaurant. And I've spent the last 22 years in the learning and development space as an innovator, an executive, and someone who's really been pushing status quo off the block.
What do you mean by that? Pushing the status quo off the block?
Well, with the digital revolution we're in, right? We all know that it seems like forever, but we've only been carrying a computer in our pocket and purses for not even 15 years yet, and it feels like that's been forever. But the challenge is the space on how people like to learn and how people engage learning experiences or training. Um, that that has changed. There's this Google mindset, right? This thinking of if I want an answer to something, I want it now. And what we don't want to do is to be able to say, okay, I have a problem at work with my career, with my job. I need answers. And now I have to sign up for a training in a month from now and then sit through 3 days to get an answer to one question. So some of the old school of thinking with training and development, especially that industry, is changing, but very slowly.
I love that. I'll give you the perfect example. In fact, way back in the day, my oldest website that I own, alvius.com. Don't go there. There's nothing there anymore. But I do still own it. We used to have a quote. We had this scroll of quotes from famous people, and one of them was Bill Gates, of course, right? He had a quote that said, "I can't imagine why anyone would need a 40 megabyte hard drive." Okay. Now let's think about that for a minute. I'm going to actually reach over here. Okay. This is my phone. All right.
Yep.
Everybody's got one, just like you were talking about. My phone, now, granted, I paid extra for the SIM card for it. I have a 256 gig SD card in my phone. Okay. My
Exactly.
phone has a faster processor than servers that were serving the entirety of the internet had in the late 90s.
And that filled entire floors of buildings. Um, so think of just that concept. It is pretty crazy. So yes, we have definitely changed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Buddy of mine, he goes back to military days pre-internet, and he said, "I remember when debugging a computer meant we had to go through with spray in these great big tubes and actually spray for bugs."
Isn't that interesting? Because yes, they were so big and warm, so the bugs literally make nests
Oh,
in
yeah.
these big servers. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
fascinating.
So, that's a lot of fun, and I love the concept that you're bringing up because um, mutant learner. It's a fun phrase, but it really is, people that are embracing where we really are. I mean, it's almost more like the rest of your mutants for not having been there, kind of a thing.
It's true, and I use that words intentionally. And I start my book out the first page almost saying being a mutant is good, and then I show all the different synonyms for the word, and think of things like grow, adapt, survive,
Mm.
thrive, transform. So those are all good things. And people say, well, pop culture has taught us that mutant means teenage mutant ninja turtles or the X-Men. And no, it just means that you are adapting and continuously and changing to the environment. And I like to, say that we are not clones. We are more mutants, and we all mutate differently. Steve, we all different. We know this. So why would we want to create a cloned experience that everyone goes through and expect them to actually change? It doesn't work that way.
I love that. Absolutely. I was actually in a discussion just last night with a group that was talking now about training your chat GPT to learn your voice so that when your version of chat GPT is doing things, it can actually give you the answers in your voice. And I was like, okay, I got to learn this more.
It is this world of AI has blown up, and that's part of what I do for my day to day. Is I work with some incredible partners that do incredible things, including AI. One of them, by the way, they have something called Mr. GPT. So think about this: it's Mr. T, kind of, right? They can't take his persona, but it's if you feel like you need a pick me up, it's in the persona of Mr. T. So you just write him, hey, I'm having a hard day today. He'll be like, come on, sucker, get up and go. You know, what I can't do the accent because I'm from South Africa, but there's some cool things out there. And actually, Steve, this concept of AI is a pivotal part of, well, it's one of the points I make in my book, that it's almost like we've come full circle. I want you to think about the traditional model of a master and having apprentices, right? You would have a master that would have only a handful of apprentices because they could only spend so much time one-on-one, right, with those apprentices. I think the model, the learning and development or training model has morphed and been bastardized over time, so that now we think we can train massive open online courses or MOOCs effectively, right? We can get thousands of people in a training with one master, and we can get information transferred effectively. And obviously it doesn't work. And that's because in the old way of thinking, the masters, the Plato's, the Socrates, for example, they would spend time with their apprentices all day for years and years and years. And that's how change happens. It takes time, but it's come full circle in some ways with AI. I want you to think about this. If that was a personalized experience for each apprentice, think about today with AI, there are some ways that we can customize the experience to us, and so that it is personalized, like you just shared, whether it's your voice or whether whatever the result is that's coming back after you put in a prompt, it's coming down personalized. It's mutated to Treon. So anyway, I thought I'd share that since you mentioned AI.
Yeah, I love that. So, I won't ask you which of your kids is your favorite, but I will ask you, what's your favorite part of the book?
Wow. I'm pretty vulnerable in the book, and that's because I've actually been working on it for about 15 years. So it's hard for me to say because of the using the kid thing. I do introduce a learning effectiveness framework. So my background, Steve, I have a master's degree in instructional technology and learning sciences, and I'm in my PhD program as a cognitive learning scientist. So I'm fascinated by human development, organizational development. I'm fascinated with why humans do what they do, and how it helps with changing behavior in good ways, right? Learning, training. And so I've been researching components of my CARES learning effectiveness framework for over 15 years now. And what I've come up with, I'm very happy to share with the world. It's actually a lot of free things on my website that gives away some of the, like an assessment. It's a way to assess, for example, an existing training course, program, a module you have, for the likelihood of it being effective in getting the objectives done. And so I'm really proud of that, because I'm building upon the great work of other researchers and people that people know, like the Kirkpatrick model, Bloom's taxonomy, David Merrill's, different 5 principles of instructional design, you name it. It's building on that, but with the lens and specifically the focus on what can we do today with technology. So it's got a very much a technology push and focus, and then the framework helps you to actually build effective learning experiences.
I love that so much. So, for somebody who isn't a mutant learner, we're all allowed to be able to mutate. Or even become the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who both them and the X-Men were pretty cool. So be your own X-Men. What is something that a person could do right now? What's something you could do to begin to embrace mutant learning?
Yeah. So I actually, what I do in the book is I share that there are 5 different types of people in the world, right? 4 of them are 4 different types of mutant learners. So most of us are mutant learners. If you are online and you're listening to this, or you're going online and you're Googling frequently answers to questions, you are a mutant learner. Now, there's different kinds, and there's no one right kind of mutant. It depends on what you're trying to do and where you are in your progression, right? The first type of mutant learner is just purely just someone who's a learner. It's just someone who's seeking knowledge and to be enhanced by it. In my opinion, the biggest level, the best mutant is one that is, once they've learned something, they then become a contributor to the ecosystem, to the world. They add their take on it. They add some new information that now continues to grow this body of knowledge. I talk about the fact that the community is the new expert. It's no longer the sage on the stage, because the sage on the stage is now several sages on the stage that are part of a community in practice, a community of practice, or a group that's online sharing and contributing and building upon. The 5th type, by the way, is a zombie, and that's you don't want to do that. Those are people that don't have any purpose, don't ever seek learning, don't want to learn. There are some, but not many. Most people want to desire and learn in some way or another, even if it's just Googling it once in a while.
I love that. I often refer to a zombie as somebody who's already dead. They just haven't had the politeness to lay down.
It's true. Or they're already dead, and they have a controller in their hand, and they've been playing for 24 hours straight, right? And I have nothing against gaming. I'm actually a huge fan of gaming and gamification, because there's lots of proven research on how effective it is. But if that's all you do and all you live for, and you're not giving back in any way, then you are a zombie.
So the book is called The Rise of the Mutant Learner: How to Learn and Lead Effectively in the Digital Age. And all of us really do need to embrace even more so the learning, the mutant learning. And then if we then take and put that to how we teach as well, that's book 2 that you got to write, by the way, now, is The Rise of the Mutant Teacher. Perfect follow-up book, and we'll talk about that. But really, if we can all start doing that, what an amazing world we could have if people really embraced it rather than fought
it. And Steve, I do start bridging that gap between mutant learner and mutant. I call them mutant leader, which are teachers, right, and professionals. And the thing about it is, imagine if we were intentional, even if only for 15 minutes a day, in our learning on a topic or an area that we are interested in. 15 minutes, when we have a busy life, all of us are busy, right? And you can make it longer. That's fine. But if you're interested in something like becoming a real estate agent, for example, and you're not one right now, well, if you at least spend 15 minutes a day working towards a goal. And so I talk about creating a mutant learning lab. It's a process I walk people through in the book to how to use this process to become more efficient or proficient in something. And that's a good way to live with more purpose and meaning each day.
I love that. You can get the book today for free. I did put the link in the description. It's also down in the comments. But if somebody would want to go deeper with you, Triana, how could they be in contact with you?
They can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. A weird spelling of my name, so it's pretty easy to find. It's Treion. That's one way. You could also go to my website, which is Treion.com, Treion.com, which leads you to modernlearningarchitect.com. It's easy to remember, Treion.com. And you can also just email me. And that's my first dot, my last name, at gmail.com. I have a business email, but it's longer, so I'm using that one.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, do go get the book today. It's free. It's really cool and exciting. It's a lot of fun. The Rise of the Mutant Learner, How to Learn and Lead Effectively in the Digital Age. Treon, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thanks, Steve, for having me.